Jeremy Weiss here. We're here live at RetailX. I'm here with Vinnie Fisher. He is founder of Fully Accountable. Vinnie, you look well rested after your RV trip. Tell people what Fully Accountable does.
Yeah, so Fully Accountable is a full outsourced accounting and finance solution. We do the work, we're the people for e-commerce and digital companies, retail brands that have most of their selling presence online.
What are the big issues they come to you with?
Yeah, so
they just hand you a shoebox full of papers. I don't know what to do.
Our sweet spot sits in that 3 to 25 million range. Mm-hmm. We have clients as low as $1 million and as high as 50 million in revenue, but we really are their back office, right? Yeah. So a bookkeeper, a controller, a data analyst, and a CFO all packaged together for less than an intern in your building. They come to us to be their entire back office or whatever part of it, depending on the size of their organization. But sadly, in e-commerce, in the digital world, you have so many transactions and you're so busy. The thing that most of us, I want to let you know, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a data analyst, I'm not a CFO. I built this because I saw a massive hole in the space, and most of these growing businesses don't think about that part of their company. So once you get to 7 figures and you start really growing is when all of the real problems, the leaky bucket issues, are what take down most good brands. It's not the early startup stage where you'll blow away margin and you don't care because you just want customers. It's once you have supply chain, inventory issues, customer service fulfillment, how you deal with your 3PL, all of the team growth stuff. It's when I think of it like a kid. When you're a little kid, a baby, your mom's taking care of you. When you get to be a little bit older and you're an adolescent, you might run around so much. Maybe you don't need mom as much. When you're a teen or even a preteen, you're kind of doing your own thing. It's at that your own thing stage is where we see a lot of e-commerce companies get in a ton of trouble because all they focused on was marketing in their offer, and really the development and the systems that are necessary to truly get into that 8-figure footprint of a brand is what takes out most companies.
Do you see that the needs change at all with, let's say, 3 to 5 million and 15 to 20 million range companies?
Yeah, it's almost like you reinvent yourself. I say sprint to 7 figures. Make it about the offer. Because if you can't sell something and you can't get to that point, then maybe you're selling the wrong thing or you have the wrong offer. But once you get to 7 figures, I've seen it. I've seen it in my own brands when I've done it. 1 million, 3 million, 5 million, and then 10 million. Each of those are massive.
From 5 to 10.
So there's things that change. So whatever early on CRM you could afford to buy, you may have outlived it. Your email functions, the service providers who you fractionalized with to provide your customer service or your fulfillment or even your merchant accounts or your banks, all of that you bought at low dollar, as low as you could. Then your team. You took whatever you could in team, and most people don't like to talk about top grading and the idea that your business could outgrow who got you there, who got you here.
Including the founder sometimes, right?
We talk about that even in our own business. At some point, Fully's got 75 people on the team now and we're big, and will I get us to a certain point? Will someone else have to get us to another point?
Right.
That's a real and very mature discussion that I think founders a lot of times have a hard time thinking about, and that's very true in the retail world and e-commerce especially is, your strategy got you to a point. You may need innovation in marketing to get it to another point. And if you're capable of doing that, great. A lot of times the marketing innovator has a really hard time also being logistically good at the operations needed to bring a mature brand to the 8-figure marketplace.
Well, I think, like you were saying, you like to play to your strengths.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you form a company out of something that your strength is. What would you say your superpower strength is? I would say it's not digging into really detailed numbers, but you formed the company over it because you saw a need. So I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, founders, they want someone to handle the back office piece because they're not as detail oriented.
Absolutely.
Right?
I'm a growth guy. I'm a marketer and I believe in team. So Dan Kennedy adage, there's only marketing and team and everything else comes behind it. I'm a marketer who has a high EQ, so I've always had a great team. Like every other growth person, because I don't have intimacy to the bottom line, I avoid it. the way I'd solve all problems by getting more gross
sales.
revenue.
Right, yeah,
more
exactly.
sales.
More
And
sales solves, solves
and so
all problems.
solves all problems.
Yes.
At least that's the false god I served for a long time. So when I opened Fully Accountable, it was to solve a major problem I had. It just became really a good offer to other people who wanted it. But I, by no means, am a numbers or analytic guy.
Yeah.
Thank goodness we have that. But what happens to guys like you and I is we're junkies for clients. We're junkies for growth. We're junkies for relationship. So what we don't want to do is see anything, especially if it even smells negative. We don't want to look at it. We'll avoid it. And then it requires a level of maturity where you got to be able to know what you're looking at. So it exposes some incompetence. So I don't want to look. I'd rather go do what I'm really good at, which is like affiliates and networking and marketing and writing sales copy and all the good things that go along with growing a company. So what happens over time, I get in a really bad habit of not paying attention to that part of my business. And all of a sudden it grows up. And you'll find our friends in that 7-figure environment who've never had the habit of paying attention to those things. And so how do you know if you're one of them? What's your profit margin? What's your cost of goods sold? What are your competitors acquiring the same exact customer at? Do you even know what your baselines? If you don't know these basic, what I consider indicators in your business, it's probably a sign that you have a problem like I have, that you're avoiding those things.
Right.
And that's really the push-pull, I'd say, of the maturing business owner, is to kind of wake up and like, you don't have to be good at it. You got to wake up and realize you need someone who is.
So Vinnie, talk about an interesting client case story.
You know, we've got some pretty notable ones, which is really cool. But I think of a couple brands. I think of my friends Craig Collins and Danette May, who are just these really cool people. They live in this environment. They have some great products. They live a very holistic health lifestyle. Well, before us, nothing changed on their products. They just didn't have a mature back office. And as soon as they did, they have quadrupled in size. Another friend of ours, like I talk about all the time, Ralph Burns. Ralph and his agency lives in this whole world, all of his clients. He had a great service, but until he was able to really get his arms around what was falling apart, I think they've 10x'd. And it's awesome.
Just because why? They could focus on other things?
Yeah. But once you know what's winning and what's losing, and you get good optics and advice on drop the losers and run the winners, it actually gets a lot more fun. When you can start marketing by math, and you're not guessing on just hoping and praying things work out, which I used to practice a theory of there's more money in the bank this month, we're good. Yeah. Which is a real dangerous way to run a high transaction business.
That's a very visionary way of looking at things, yeah.
Yeah. More money, big picture. And I'd say that when you're given information where you can make actionable decisions and you have data analyst type work being done, that's one. I say every CEO who does e-commerce or high transactions should have a data analyst right at their hip, because that is actually the problem solver. Yeah. Because they're offering the observations.
Vinnie, where can people find out more? Where should they go?
Just go to fullyaccountable.com. They can go to vinniefisher.com. We're very accessible. I'm very accessible. We care about this marketplace. RetailX gets it. What I like what's going on here is I'm seeing it now, and I love what you guys are doing and kind of exposing it. Retail brick and mortar has had a certain relationship for a long time when it comes to e-commerce and digital. I think they're seeing now that you can drive customers back into your store with a mature digital e-commerce presence. And this year, I'm seeing it happen here. So I think RetailX is onto something. And so what I'd say, shout out, if you're in one of those spaces and you're looking to figure out how to cross that over, this is a conference I'd be at.
Nice. Thank you. Jeremy Weiss, live from RetailX.